Ladies and gentlemen, you ready for your next roaster? You can check this guy out on his podcast, This Is Rad, which you can subscribe to and download on iTunes. Also go to estoy.com and check out his album, Pizza Night. Give a big round of applause, my good friend, Mr. Kyle Clark.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you all for coming. It's truly an honor to be here, a part of this. I can't think of a better tribute for Walt Disney than in the back of a comic book store at a theater sponsored by a popular podcast. All things that we know you truly stood for. Well done. I'm glad you crawled out of a grave for this. I just want to acknowledge a couple of things, ladies and gentlemen. People who could and could not be here tonight. I feel like we all need to acknowledge the absence. He sends his regards of Steve Martin, who was, of course, his career began at the Walt Disneyland Parks. He's not here because he's an old, creepy weirdo who hates us all. The cast of Kingdom Hearts are not here, and I don't understand why, because they're not doing anything else these days. It's the only room in America I can do that joke and have an emotional reaction to it. But let's keep on hope. It's a month away from E3. Porky Pig is also not here because no matter how many times I tell my aunt she is not a Disney character, or he is not a Disney character, she's a confused old lady. He's a Looney Tune, for those of you who are like, is he Hanna-Barbera? Learn your corporately sponsored fictional characters. I wanted to share with you all my personal connection to you. I used to live in Long Beach, California. I went to college there, right on, me and that guy. Whistles McGee, like we do in the LBC. And when I attended college there, I would go to Disneyland to study, because there's no better place to study and read than sitting in line for Space Mountain. I have a very, very vivid memory of sitting at Disneyland alone in the rain, reading Angels in America, waiting to go on Alice in Wonderland for the third time. And in case you were wondering, yes, I was cripplingly depressed in college. I like to think of Disneyland as a place of functional fascism. It's the one place in the world where you can go and see fascism done correctly. Because no matter what kind of turmoil America is in, the monorails run on time. Walt, you are the king of family entertainment. You made pirate rape fun for the whole family. You saw Abraham Lincoln, one of the greatest minds in American history, and said, hey, I'm going to make a robot of him. And I'm going to stick him in a shitty show near the front of the park that only gets attendance because the air conditioning is excellent. But you've given us an endless amount of amazing attractions. You gave us It's a Small World, which celebrated creepy dolls and racial stereotypes, living in harmony. You gave us the Enchanted Tiki Room because of the famous quote where Walt was like, you know what's fun? Sitting under a bunch of noisy birds. And hey, let's make them all racial stereotypes, because I'm working on a theme at this park. Walt never saw an opportunity to combine boat rides and vague racism that he didn't immediately approve. And it only makes me feel like there's some injustice and tragedy that you were never able to see your masterwork, Splash Mountain, to its completion. You know, a lot of people said they couldn't make a Song of the South ride. But that's actually not true. What they said was, please don't do that. It's very racist. Please don't, in 1990, open a ride based on a movie we've had banned because of pressures from the Black Panther since 1972. But the Disney Corporation said Walt would want his memory to go on so that skanky Orange County girls could flash their boobs on a giant water-powered tribute to racism. You know, Walt, they say that no one dies at Disneyland except for your employees who are dead inside. And also the guy who got crushed by the rotating walls of the House of Tomorrow. That lady who got beheaded on the Columbia sailing ship. And all those guys who drowned during grad night trying to swim to Tom Sawyer's Island. Those are not roast jokes. That's my way of giving you just a taste of what happens if you search the word Disney deaths. Please respect the other performers and wait to get on your phone until after the show. But you are welcome. There also used to be a dress code at Disneyland. Very few people know this. That you had to have short hair. You could not have a beard. You had to have a collared shirt on. It seems kind of barbaric by today's standards, but it wasn't that bad. Walt always has the famous quote back in the days of the dress code that was like, "Hey, I'm letting Jews and blacks into the park. Get off my nuts." You remember that, Walt? I remember. We were just 3 sheets to the wind in Club 33. No pants. Just talking about the inner workings. We've had a lot of good times. Walt, you've accomplished a lot of things. Disneyland's not your only accomplishment. Of course, you're famous for all your classic films. Classic films like The Shaggy Dog, Son of Flubber, and Darby O'Gill and the Little People. Now, for those of you not applauding, that movie's a piece of shit. But it's at the same time the scariest movie ever made. So after you finish Disney deaths and your terror bloodlust has not subsided yet, Amazon.com, $2.99 to stream it tonight. But you have made a lot of garbage movies, but you've also made a lot of classic things, classic tales as old as time, like Snow White, the classic tale of the queen who tries to murder a teenage girl, who then ends up living with some midgets, until a guy makes out with her while she's passed out. Fantasia, which was some boring shit that even drugs can't make better. Bambi, a movie about a deer whose parents get wasted, so she hangs out with a gay skunk and rabbit. And of course, Peter Pan, the story of a teenage girl and her brothers who run away from home, live in the woods with an asshole and his retarded friends. Plus also more rapey pirates. Also, fuck Tinkerbell. Also, fuck you, Walt. I must admit, I'm going to end on a story, but first I want to say that doing this research has really done 2 things. It's rekindled my passion for Disney and also reminded me, you're an awful, awful man. And that I hope after you're put back into cryogenic stasis, that someone pees in the tube that contains your cryogenically frozen head. But I'd like to end with a story that Walt told me about one of his classic films and its origins. The year is 1961. He is sitting in his office, and a woman comes in with a burlap bag. And she says, "I've got your next animated feature for you." And he says, "All right, go ahead." And she pulls out 5 cats. And she balls them up. And one by one places them inside of her vaginal cavity until it stretches out, resembling the mouth of that guy from Ripley's Believe It or Not with the billiard balls, which she then fires down a bowling ball lane, getting a perfect strike using the power of 5 cats. Walt then sat for a moment, collecting his thoughts, and said, "That's great. What do you call it?" And the woman turned to him and said, "The Aristocats." Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
One more time for Kyle Clark.